On this tutorial, we're going to go over the basics of flight and control on a quad line kite. Now, the very first thing, of course, always reminder when you have your kite on the ground, that's every bit as important control-wise as being in the air. And what I mean by that is that it still requires attention to make sure the kite is secure on the ground. That always, again, is done by leaning the thumbs towards the kite. I have the brakes on with the kite upright. So what I'm going to do to launch is I'm actually going to lean my top lines back. You can see what's happening with my hands. And be sure and check out our tutorial on form and general body technique. But what I'll point out here is that by leaning the thumbs slightly closer together like this, you'll be able to go ahead and get this angle a little bit more easily. When I do that, what I'm going to do is go bump, bump. We call it a double tap, and I'm going to step back. And I want to be clear that this is not a big pull. It's just a tap, tap, and then I'm securing the tension of all four lines with the thumbs or top lines being dominant. So it goes like this. Yep. And depending on the amount of wind pressure, you may need to secure the ends of those lines a little bit stronger or give it a couple more taps. So once more, here's what one tap looks like, just like that. And you'll notice that I'm really getting that tension. I snap and then I connect with all four strings. Here's a double tap. And you can see the kite's just a little bit more positive drive. And once you've got it, you know, what we're accomplishing here is that we're essentially changing the shape of the kite into a more curved form with the first hit, and then the second hit is really connecting to it. So let's pick up on that. Again, the first one jumps it and the second one sets it. Bam, bam, just like that. And so there you've got your basic launch. Now, once we're up at the top, what we're going to be doing is letting the kite come to its natural rise, the peak, if you will, and then once it's there, we're going to feel that kite start to drop, and then what we're going to do is we're going to leverage either bottom line very gently, and less is more. We're going to leverage either bottom line to make sure that we're keeping the kite trimmed on the way down. I'm going to try to really illustrate that. So we have a launch, it reaches the peak, and then I'm going to really show how that works. There's the walking of the bottom lines. Now I do want to demonstrate what it looks like if I ham fist that. If I'm too aggressive, then sometimes the kite is making movements that are a little bit too big to track that quickly. So once more, we're going to go up, finding the peak, and then we're going to just manage our control on the way down. I'm going to accelerate that. You're going to see a little bit more pressure in the bottom lines, and the kite goes faster. Now, the faster the kite goes, the more wily it's going to tend to be. So there is sort of a speed that you'll find that works really well for that. One more time, up, and then walking it down. And there you can see I used a very, very subtle walk down. Also, every time I'm touching the ground, I'm then setting it so the kite is leaning back and locked into place. So now, once more reaching towards the very fundamental basic control of this kite, we're going to go ahead and try an open left turn. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to bear down very slightly with this left hand, and you're going to see me get a left large-ish circle out of it. Here we go. And then I straighten out my hand. So one of the things that you'll notice as I go through this is, you know, if you took a driving lesson, you'd have 3 and 9 on the wheel. So in this case, this is your 3 and 9. So when you go and make an input, when you're done with that input, you want to go back. So the main thing is not having kind of a random stance. This is where control exists. You make an input and you go back to stance. So once more, bearing down on that left and then straightening out, and then I can do my reverse and back it down. So now we're going to try it on the right. Bearing down on that right hand, trimming, and coming in like that. So what that down motion is doing is very similar to this. It's applying pressure to the bottom line, but when you're using an open, gross movement with the hand and not the wrist, you're applying a wider grade of input, and so it's a little bit more smooth kind of style for turning. So once more, to the left, drawing down, squaring off. I'm going to start again, drawing right, and coming down again. There it is. So now if we kind of level that up, we head into spins or tighter circles. So in order to do that, I'm going to do something somewhat similar, except that I'm going to apply more leverage on the thumb. So it's between the thumb and the the ring finger on the hand like this, you're going to see me really torque the handle more and more thumb influence. So again, with the spins, a little bit deeper. There it is. That's more of a spin. You could see it was tighter. Same on the right. There it is. And that really does come off easier when you have that cross leverage between the thumb and the ring finger. Now, what I can also do is juxtapose. So what we just showed you is turning with one hand, but this time I'm going to do opposition with the hands, and that's going to give me an even tighter spin. So I'm going to go up, and I juxtapose, and there's almost an axis rotation. Now I'm going to go up and do the other one. And there's the other axis rotation. And you'll find sometimes after the spin, you'll have to use the opposing hand to just kind of stop it. So what you did, you'll go back the other way for just a second and then back to 3 and 9. So that's the basic introduction to the bass controls. And let's get into a little bit more. So we have the very basic right-left inputs covered on the Kite. I want to take this opportunity now to stop on to cover dive stops. So the ability to stop or break the Kite is pretty important while you're learning, because all of a sudden you might be doing something and of course it's barreling towards the ground, and you want to be able to stop or slow down so you don't crash too hard. And frankly, dive stops are just wicked fun to do. This is what it looks like. So again, we're going to take off. We're heading towards the ground, and I push both thumbs abruptly, and my hands drop slightly lower than my elbows. So I'm flying, and it goes bam, lower than my elbows, and I'm pressing down on the bottom lines. It's going to go like this. Just do a few repeats here. Right? Now, if I over brake, it looks something like that. We'll do that one more time. So you can see, you can really affect how abruptly the Kite stops. The other thing you can do to really maximize a dive stop is to let your arms out slightly at the moment that you hit those brakes. Let's see if we can watch that happen. There it is, my arms went out. And what that's actually doing is alleviating some of the wind pressure and allowing the brake input that I'm putting in to be even stronger and more effective. So one more time, going up and coming down for a dive stop. If I wanted to spread that out, instead of it being a hard stop, I would find the pressure with my thumbs and slowly build that in as I'm heading down. You're going to see that here. It's going to start kind of quickly, and then I'm slowing down, and then I can land. So that's how that works. Let's take you on to another subject. Now, potentially the next useful application would be what I would almost call like a jab input or a short range input. That's where we're just going to make the input very briefly and then go back to the 3 and 9. And what we're doing, what that allows us to do is to make short changes in vector. So it goes, I'm going to actually go up and I'm going to try a left square, and I'm going to do that with very soft pushes. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 pushes to complete a square. So here we go. It's going to be off the left hand here. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how we're getting those short range turns. And those can be a little bit tricky as you're learning them. But with a soft hand, you can eventually get a feel for it and work that out. And using that sort of turn, that opens up things like diamonds. So if you're here, or zigzags, these kinds of motions, little tips and taps. If you're not sure where you're going, you can kind of incrementally change your direction until you are headed the way that you want to go. So with that in mind, moving on. So another input that I tend to use in a variety of ways is what I would call a deep pull turn. Sometimes we convert that into what we call shouldering. So it goes somewhat back to the first loop that we did, where we're bearing that hand down and then putting it back. But I'm going to use it in short jabs. So the one that we just looked at was really more thumb jabs. The hands stay close in the package. This one you're going to see almost a little bit of dual line, except that the actuating hand is coming slightly down and back, and it's just putting that kind of heavy bottom hand input into the bottom lines, and that's going to look like this. Same pattern, except that I'm getting a slightly more rounded turn, and I tend not to lose as much drive. So using that, I think one of the things we want to do now is we have a broader understanding of the different inputs. We've got our thumb, we have the pressure between the thumb and the index finger, we have our draw or shouldering turns. And so once you have that, approaching this from the very beginning stage is to start selecting places that you want to go. Because it's one thing to launch into the air and try to maintain control. Excellent, a lot of fun. However, giving the kite a purpose or having a target in the sky is pretty important. So we're going to assume that you understand the wind window, and if not, definitely look for that tutorial in our library. But working within the wind window, I'm going to pick an area. So in this case, I'm going to aim up and slightly upper left, up and slightly upper left. Then I'm going to bear that right hand and use that back down that we did earlier, the pressure in the bottom lines, and you saw me kind of pull it back towards center. So this time I'm going to launch head off towards right. That's a very slight shoulder out, like this. There it goes right. Then I pull the left again very gently, and I back it down. So now what we've seen demonstrated so far is the kite has gone up and down at the very beginning. Then now I'm going out, I did a circle one way, I did a circle another way, and all of this works towards flight vocabulary, which just if you were learning, like if you were learning a guitar, you want to learn all the notes, then you want to learn the chords, and so all of that vocabulary then connects to become something cohesive. So going up again, upper left, then I'm going to take off, I'm going to go to top center. Again, walking those hands, and you'll notice I'm not doing a lot of gross input. I'm mostly letting the kite be a kite and just making sure it has enough gas when it needs it. Now, for the third, we go up to the upper right. So that's sort of like a trident. We just went upper side, center, and other side. Then once more, we're trying a circle out to the left and trying to get a landing or control. Circle out to the right. Then, of course, there's hunting from side to side of the wind window. And so that's going to look a little bit like this. I'm going to launch, and I'm going to do a slightly deeper bear on the left hand until it's facing left. And then I'm going to even up and let it fly left. Goes more or less like this. And then I draw the right till it's facing right, and then the left. So we're just hunting back and forth across the window. And I can even get playful with it, or I can keep it closer to an orientation that I'm comfortable with while I'm learning. Back and forth. And so then when you put it all together, using that guitar analogy, now it's up, center, up, left, and back, up, right, and back. We're going to circle left. We're going to circle right. Let's go do that box again. Bap, 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 like that, and 2, 3, 4. I'm going to hunt to the left. I'm going to hunt to the right. And then here comes that dive stop. Oh, there it is, and set it down. So you can see how all of that comes together. You'll notice, I really want to bring your attention to the fact that my hands have not been waving all over the place, because when your hands, much like the reason that we get a turn when our hand goes down here, anytime your hand goes out of the control box, out of the strike zone, it actually does apply an input whether or not you mean to. So if you have your hands here and you're consciously doing something and then going back to the strike zone, it's always going to give you the cleanest control interface. So the other one that I'm going to add here too is with the dive stop. The last piece, I think, for this very basic flight introduction is to stop and then turn away. So we stop and then let one thumb back, and you can see it actually turn the kite over and upright. One more time. Coming in for the dive stop, I've stopped, and then I either let one hand out or I press on the other thumb. In any case, what we're doing is starting a turn. The handles are juxtaposed. So I'll do that a couple more times so it's very clear. And let's try it just with a thumb input. I'm going to stop and then press that left thumb. It's a little quicker, a little bit more aggressive. Stopping, right thumb. And this time, I'm going to do it by letting one hand out. There, you can see that bottom left hand shot out. Now I'll let the bottom right one out. Whoop, there it is. And so you start to get the concept of how these inputs are working. And especially in the body and form tutorial, we'll cover a lot more detail on exactly how the different inputs work. But the one thing that I'm going to add here while you're flying is that, of course, there's something to be known about the tuning to make sure that the kite responds very well for you. We'll cover that in detail. Where exactly you're holding the handle. So if you're up here at the top, it's pretty hard to leverage the brakes. If you're all the way down here, you're already on the brakes. And so there's usually a point here, I refer to it as the fulcrum. It's the tipping point of the handle. And that's really where you want to be, so that when you just simply change the tension point, the handles are allowed to go to the new position and fly. So I think that's going to be our basic introduction to flight and control. Please be sure to check out the other tutorials where I'm going to get a little bit deeper into the things that you can do with that control, all the little mechanics that go into it. And in the meantime, have fun. I'll see you in the next one.